Hey, welcome back. You know, I was thinking the other day about that feeling of pure, unadulterated discovery. Not like finding your keys, but something deeper. That moment when you're digging through an old box in your parents' attic or a forgotten shelf in a used bookstore, and your fingers brush against something, and you just know. You found a piece of a story you didn't even know was missing. That thrill, that connection across time, it's electric. It's why we save letters, why we keep journals. It's a very human impulse to whisper into the future, hoping someone will listen. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is Echoes of the Ancients. And today, we're going back to one of the most profound moments of discovery in all of archaeology, to listen to the whispers of a king who built not a tomb, but a library. This is the story of the Library of Ashurbanipal. Now, if I say the world's greatest ancient library, your mind probably jumps to the Library of Alexandria. All those scrolls, that tragic fire, it's the famous one. But centuries before Alexandria's first stone was laid, there was another. Tucked between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, in the magnificent, terrifying, and awe-inspiring capital of the Neo-Assyrian Empire, Nineveh. And this library wasn't built by a committee of scholars. It was the obsessive passion of one man, Ashurbanipal, the last great king of Assyria. A man who ruled in the 7th century BC with an iron fist, whose armies were the terror of the ancient Near East. But he had another, quieter title he was proud of. I, Ashurbanipal, learned the wisdom of Nabu, the entire art of writing of every scribe, of every kind. He was, he claimed, personally literate, a rarity for kings of his age. So, let's set the scene in Nineveh, around 650 BC. Imagine a sprawling palace complex, walls lined with breathtaking limestone reliefs of lion hunts and conquered armies. And in the heart of it, room after room, not filled with gold or weapons, but with clay. Thousands upon thousands of tablets. Smooth, hand-sized rectangles of damp clay, inscribed with the delicate, wedge-shaped marks of cuneiform, then baked hard as stone. This was Ashurbanipal's master plan. He sent scribes and agents to every corner of his empire, to Babylon, to Uruk, to ancient, crumbling temples, with a simple, imperial command: copy everything. Bring me every text you can find. And they did. The library became a time capsule of Mesopotamian thought. We're not just talking about dry administrative records, though there were plenty of those. We're talking about the soul of a civilization. Epic poetry, like the full, magnificent text of the Epic of Gilgamesh, the story of a king's quest for immortality, with its haunting flood narrative that echoes so many later tales. There were omens, meticulously cataloged. If a sheep gives birth to a lion, the king will have no rival. There were medical texts listing symptoms and bizarre remedies. There were dictionaries for translating between Sumerian and Akkadian, languages already ancient in Ashurbanipal's own time. He was, in a very real sense, trying to gather all the knowledge in the world under one roof, to hold the collective memory of Mesopotamia in his hands. But here's the fascinating tension at the heart of this story. Ashurbanipal wasn't just a benevolent scholar king funding a public resource. This was a private, royal library. Knowledge was power, literally. Understanding the omens, having the rituals, holding the genealogies and the treaties. This was how you maintained control. The library was an instrument of statecraft, a tool for training his scribes and priests to run the empire efficiently. It was a weapon, forged from clay and words. It protected the empire's cultural hegemony, just as his armies enforced its physical borders. So we have this dual image, the ruthless conqueror and the meticulous librarian. Both are true. He preserved the stories of gods and heroes even as his own story was one of relentless expansion and brutal suppression. And then, it was all buried. The empire fell, spectacularly and violently, not long after Ashurbanipal's death. Nineveh was sacked and burned in 612 BC by a coalition of its enemies. The palace roofs, made of cedar wood, collapsed. And the library? It didn't burn like papyrus. It crashed down into the rooms below, and the thousands of clay tablets were buried under rubble and mud. For over 2 millennia, they slept there, while the world above forgot Assyria entirely, remembering it only as a name of a forgotten oppressor in biblical texts. The rediscovery is a story for another day. a tale of Victorian archaeologists like Austin Henry Layard and Hormizd Rassam, digging through mounds in modern-day Iraq, finding these strange little clay biscuits with chicken scratch writing. But the moment of understanding, that was slow. It happened in the quiet of the British Museum, where the crates of tablets were sent, as scholars slowly, painstakingly, began to decipher the cuneiform. The scale of the find dawned on them. They weren't just reading random inscriptions. They were reading a library. They pieced together broken fragments of the same story from different rooms. They realized they held the oldest known great library in the world. This is the part that always gets me, personally. As an engineer, I'm drawn to systems, to structures of information. What Ashurbanipal built was a data center. His scribes organized the tablets by subject. They created catalogs. They even put tags on the shelves. It was a system for preserving and retrieving information across generations. And as a storyteller, I'm shattered by the intimacy of some of the finds. Among the grand epics and royal annals, there are school tablets. You can see, on the same piece of clay, the careful, perfect cuneiform of the teacher on one half, and the wobbly, awkward attempts of the student on the other. For a moment, the empire fades, and you're just in a classroom, a master patiently passing on a skill. That connection is immediate. It's human. The Library of Ashurbanipal forces us to redefine what we think a library is for. It wasn't a place for public browsing. It was a fortress of knowledge, designed to consolidate power, to ensure cultural continuity, to arm the state with precedent and prophecy. And in a tragic, ironic twist, that very act of consolidation is what saved this knowledge for us. When Nineveh fell, if these texts had been scattered across 100 temples, they would have been lost. By bringing them all to one place, Ashurbanipal created a single, magnificent target for destruction and for preservation. The fire that burned the city baked the tablets harder. The collapse buried them in a protective tomb. So what's the echo here? What's the whisper from Nineveh that reaches us in our digital age? For me, it's a profound lesson about the fragility and the stubborn endurance of memory. Ashurbanipal sought immortality through conquest and through curation. The conquests faded into dust, but the curation? Those careful copies, those organized shelves, they worked. He succeeded. We know his name today not because of a battle he won, but because of the stories he saved. He understood that whoever preserves the narrative shapes the future's understanding of the past. We are all librarians of our own lives now, aren't we? With our digital clouds, our endless photos, our carefully curated social feeds. We are all building our own little libraries of Ashurbanipal, trying to impose order on the chaos of experience, hoping to be remembered, to be understood. His story asks us, what are we choosing to save? What stories, what knowledge are we committing to our own clay? And what are we, perhaps, leaving to be forgotten? Thank you for listening. If these echoes from the past resonate with you, please help the story continue. Share this episode with someone who loves history, or subscribe to Echoes of the Ancients wherever you get your podcasts. For the transcripts, further reading, and a glimpse behind the scenes, visit our production home at Light Not Studios. https://www.lightnotstudios.com. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi. Until next time, keep listening for the whispers.